For decades, the global economy operated on a simple premise. Organized, codified knowledge was difficult to acquire and expensive to access. Solving a complex problem required deferring to a credentialed expert, because no other mechanism existed to reach that tier of information. The university functioned as the primary gatekeeper to this vault. Possessing a research doctorate signaled that an individual had successfully navigated institutional barriers, mastered specialized vocabularies, and synthesized decades of complex literature. The advent of generative artificial intelligence structurally dismantles this architecture. Large language models can instantly retrieve, translate, and synthesize these previously restricted bodies of text across almost any domain. This democratization of access drives the marginal cost of literature retrieval toward zero. The structural advantage that once defended professional status through restricted information access has effectively collapsed. If codified knowledge is effectively free and universally accessible, the continuing economic value of the credentialed expert enters a state of crisis. A popular critique suggests that higher education produces insulated theoreticians whose primary skills, data synthesis and drafting, are now commoditized functions of software. If this critique were accurate, we would see a systemic devaluation of the degree in macroeconomic wage and employment data. This chart tracks earnings and unemployment by education. Doctorate holders maintain a 1.2% unemployment rate, the lowest group, and highest wage premiums. Their resilience is extraordinary. 97% of young STEM PhDs are employed, and 40% of those aged 71 to 75 remain in the workforce, often shifting to consulting. Expertise is not obsolete. The empirical evidence proves that the ivory tower is a myth for the vast majority of degree holders. The emergence of AI moves the economic premium from the retrieval of information to the verification of truth and the ability to bear accountability. To understand where that premium lives, we must partition the national labor data to track where modern doctorate holders work and what they produce. This Sankey diagram visualizes the flow of U.S. research doctorates awarded in 2024. A massive 79% are in science and engineering, leaving a fraction for the humanities. For this majority, the academic pathway of a tenured professorship is no longer the primary destination. In 2019, private industry overtook academia as the largest employment sector for life sciences PhDs. Looking specifically at engineering graduates, 77% hold definite career commitments in business or industry the moment they graduate. These figures dismantle the stereotype of the academic researcher hiding from the practical world. They are deeply integrated into the private sector. They populate the implementation economy, the operational space where theoretical models are converted into commercial products, clinical protocols, and physical infrastructure. For the vast majority of modern advanced degree holders, the corporate laboratory has replaced the academic cloister. We must also examine the academic institutions themselves, because the assumption that university research produces only theoretical models ignores the highly operational nature of modern science. The American Research University is an engine of industrial implementation. In a single recent year, total academic research and development expenditures reached $109.7 billion. This funnel tracks the direct commercial outputs of that funding in 2024. The capital generated 26,000 invention disclosures, filtering down into 7,968 patents, and ultimately 775 new commercial products. Startups possessing these academic patents are 35 times more likely to succeed than those without them. Academic STEM research is the verifiable engine generating the patents and companies that drive the broader economy. However, the critique of institutional insulation holds empirically verifiable weight in one specific sector, the humanities and non-empirical social sciences. Unlike in STEM, 70% of new humanities degree holders with definite employment commitments remain inside the academic ecosystem. While they remain in higher education, the actual structure of academic employment has collapsed into what is known as the gig academy. This pie chart contrasts faculty roles between 1987 and 2021. Today, 68% of all U.S. college faculty hold contingent, non-tenure track appointments. The severity of this shift is visible in the fact that 48% of all faculty now work strictly part-time. These precarious, temporary roles strip scholars of the institutional support and time required to engage in business, policy development, or community implementation. Instead of deploying its graduates into the broader economy, higher education frequently consumes them, trapping them in low-paid, temporary instructional roles. Returning to the macroeconomy, we can trace exactly how generative AI disrupts the knowledge worker labor market. Empirical studies demonstrate a phenomenon known as skill compression, where AI disproportionately improves the productivity of novice or lower quartile workers. This line graph maps performance on routine drafting tasks. The novice worker's productivity curve shoots up rapidly, intersecting the high-skill workers curve. AI levels the playing field for first drafts, but large language models are stochastic pattern matchers. They frequently hallucinate, unable to ground claims in reality. When the task shifts to edge case verification, the gap widens. The novice line flatlines from automation bias. The expert curve accelerates because deep domain knowledge is required to detect subtle hallucinations. AI automates the initial synthesis. The expert's true value now resides in the final validation of truth. The corporate sector recognizes this shift and is attempting to move towards skills-based hiring to evaluate pure capability rather than credentials. Currently, only 46% of employers actually plan to expand skills-based hiring next year, stalled by an expensive operational obstacle. Here we see the bottleneck. While 70% want skills-based hiring, 53% cite the inability to effectively verify a candidate's claimed skills as their primary hiring hurdle. Generative AI exacerbates this problem. It allows novices to perfectly mimic expert vocabularies on resumes and pass automated screening assessments. Employers retain degree requirements not because they perfectly measure competence. They rely on the university as an outsourced, legally defensible verification heuristic because direct skill verification is too expensive. To accurately map human capital in an era of abundant information, we need a new competency architecture. Historically, cognitive labor rested on the abilities to access relevant knowledge and accurately comprehend it. As this framework illustrates, those bottom two tiers, access and comprehension, have been automated by generative AI software. Moving up the staircase, we hit the human-centric tiers: verification, testing whether information is true in reality, and judgment, making choices under uncertainty and resource constraint. At the top are the highest operational tiers: implementation, turning verified knowledge into a physical process, and outcome, generating a measurable positive result. Educational credentials can no longer signal that a student merely possesses information. They must evolve into verified portfolios of evidence, proving execution across these higher stages. When codified information is free, the ability to operationalize and test that information in the physical world becomes the primary source of economic scarcity. There is one factor at the absolute pinnacle of this framework, a capability that artificial intelligence remains unable to replicate: accountability. The uniquely human capacity to assume legal, ethical, and financial responsibility for a deployed outcome. Consider a high-stakes scenario. Software can generate a flawless clinical protocol or draft a perfect structural blueprint for a bridge, but an AI cannot be sued for malpractice if the patient dies or if the bridge collapses. A human expert is required to verify the output, oversee the physical implementation, and bear the ultimate ethical weight of the result. Information access no longer provides a market defense. In the automated era, verifiable action, integrity, and human accountability define professional scarcity.